But the big question is, why didn't you let him do the intro himself?
Yeah,
as we normally do.
That's true. But I am doing the edit, so I can make anything happen.
Oh no. Okay.
I wasn't in the WhatsApp group, so I don't know if he's been briefed on the bring your own intro shenanigans.
He's listened to the podcast.
Yeah,
That's not a given.
True.
I wouldn't.
Same approach I've taken in every other podcast. To be honest, just make it up as I go along.
Yeah.
He never did an intro in his old podcast, so I don't know.
We didn't do a sing. No, we did one. I think I can't remember who it was for now. We did do one once.
Oh damn! So I was hoping this was going to be a first. That would be
no.
Nice.
We'd start talking about 10, 15 minutes beforehand, and then just press go, partway through a sentence if necessary.
Yeah,
I think it
makes it more interesting for the people listening because we did it live, of course.
Yeah, and then of course, if you also start mid-sentence, it's a bit of a conundrum for the listeners as well. What the hell they're on about for the first half an hour?
There may have been the odd time where there might have been a good selection of sentence to make you go, "What on earth are they talking about?"
Yeah. I always think of that as the Maker's Waffle style when I accidentally start a podcast or a YouTube video a couple of minutes in, and what was this? Oh, okay, I have to go back, or no, I can't go back. Okay, this.
What we should have done is recorded. We should have recorded the pre-show, and then kind of sold those, of course.
Might have sold better than the after show.
Yeah, yeah. Given how many people were dropping off by, but on Patreon, yeah, we might have done better.
I mean, it's a good way to get the juices flowing, so to say, to have a really wicked, nasty pre-show and just get it out of your system. And
that might have happened a few times. I'm not going to say who with. And some of the unrecorded after shows, well, there's another story.
How did you feel after you did that episode with I Jessup?
Exhausted.
I'll bet. What time did you all get to bed? About 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, well, we started recording. Well, we started talking to about 9:15 UK time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's something like a 7 or 8 hour time difference with West Coast US. Yeah. And it was 5 minutes. The recording was 5 minutes short of 5 hours.
Good God.
So we started recording at 9:30. So we're looking at 2:30 in the morning. Then we stopped recording. But we then carried on for probably another sort of 15 minutes or so afterwards. So, yeah, it was gone 3 when we went to bed.
Bloody hell.
Gone 3 a.m.
Yeah. From a point of view...
Which is kind of one of the reasons why I'm not that episode per se, but recording late on a Sunday night before a Monday, not great.
No. But
not for functioning on the Monday anyway.
But I mean, you did manage to make an episode that was, I mean, decent all the way through. I've listened to a lot of shorter podcasts that weren't interesting. And I mean, you kept it going, but I mean, you were 3 people who can talk. So
yeah, and we had very good guests. There were a couple of people who if we were doing it all again, we wouldn't call back.
Was that us?
And they're fairly obvious, and I'm not going to say who they are. If you listen to them all, yes. You'll work it out. So if you haven't listened to them all, go back and listen to them. It's only about 600 hours of recording. So yeah, I think we had good guests, and yeah, Jamie and I can talk, and we generally had guests who could talk as well. So yeah, and we didn't. I think because we set perhaps mistakenly, the sort of modus operandi of not setting time limits for most people. There were a few people Annie, for example, she took time out of a family party to come and talk to us.
Oh wow!
So which we really, really appreciated.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation. We had a little bit of a chat afterwards as well, which wasn't recorded, which was very, very good. And love to chat to her again, but we very much did respect her time. And any of the guests who said, look, I've got work tomorrow and I'm recording later, particularly those, on sort of Central European time, we did very much kind of respect their time. But for most other people, we just say, look, we'll just talk until the conversation dries up.
Yeah.
It's like having a conversation in the pub or at the bar, the Hilton Bar at Maker Central, and we can just, you can talk, we can have that chat. And we both, Jamie and I, very good at going off on tangents. Superpower or super fault, I'm not sure which, but yeah.
That depends
on
how you use it.
Podcast. Well, yeah, when you're having a conversational podcast, it's great. I think the biggest problem is that we were having these nice long conversations and really enjoying them, apart from the exhaustion the next day. But of course, the listeners weren't always enjoying, oh no, they've done another 3-hour podcast this week.
Do you still get a chance to chat to Jamie? Do you both still chat?
We chat. I'm on a social media blackout at the moment. Just kind of digital detox, Lent. Yeah, I started it for Lent. Little tip to people. There's 2 times of the year when you can do what you like in terms of like giving things up. New Year's, just call it New Year's resolution. You can give anything up. And people will go, okay, you're right, it's your New Year's resolution. Yeah. And in the back of their mind, they're going, yeah, that'll last 2 weeks. The other time is Lent. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not. But if you say, look, I'm giving up chocolate for Lent, people go, oh, well done. I'm giving up social media for Lent. Oh, well done. Yeah.
I thought you meant for a length.
No. Lent, up until Easter.
Yeah, it was just like last week I heard that term Lent. I never heard it in English before. I know what it is, but I never heard that name for it.
Yeah, I wonder what it's called. I never really thought about it, but it might be called elsewhere.
We did have a little conversation about it last year around Pancake Day, KJ.
Yeah, but I didn't hear you say that word specifically.
Okay.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't
I
listen
thought
to
you were going to
everything you
eat
say.
pancakes at length, and yeah, that makes sense. Went with it as I usually do when you speak. It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're not really good at that part in this country. I mean, we're taking the pre-show to the length. I mean that you're parting up all your supplies beforehand. It's kind of a thing to have a big feast. Mm-hmm. We do that, but then we skip the fasting, that sort of thing. I mean, today is a Waffles Day here in Sweden because it's I mean, it's the Mother Mary of Christ thing, which you can say our wife, so to say, vår fru, which is like waffle if you pronounce it badly in Swedish. So we just took the Christian holidays, but hey, yeah, let's eat waffles. And no one cares about the Christian part anymore.
All of your things seem to be centered around eating something. It's cake on Fat Tuesday, isn't it? Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a kind of cake. Yeah, I mean, we were starving for basically until the potato arrived in Europe. I mean, it's harsh living this far north. I mean, you can't sustain just normal farming here. That's why we consume so much milk, because I mean, you can't sustain on just growing things. You have to have animals and milk them any way you can.
Because the water is frozen, you need to find something with an udder quickly.
He said any way you can, not necessarily others.
I know. That bull took some milking, didn't it?
Well, protein is protein.
He seemed happy enough, though.
Helps them calm down as well. Was that a bit too half-pinty?
It's a bit early.
Started off strong.
Sorry.
Yeah, at least we have the title sorted. Chasing the bull. Or by the horns, maybe. Well, I'll think about it.
Because there's like chasing dragon. Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting how how food, particularly like Christian holidays and associates around food, but then different countries have that going in different manners, and so it might be kind of pancakes in one country, waffles in another, different type of cake in another. The whole kind of celebrations, the festivals that get thrown in with food.
I think I only get traditional Labour food at Christmas time. I think any other time of the year, it's just a full protein diet as usual for me.
No Easter eggs and Simnel cake.
I don't think anybody's bought me an Easter egg for years now. I've bought myself a few after Easter when they're a bit cheaper.
I mean, you're your own boss. You're supposed to give employees things. You should be a nicer boss to yourself.
All right. I'll take that on board, KJ. Thank you.
So buy yourself a cabbage cream egg and go,
yeah.
Glenn, you've been great this last couple of months. Have a cream egg. Oh, thank you, Glenn.
Just one?
You cheap bastard. Well, he knows times are trying. Then you have...
don't get the employee of the month doing that.
See, I can't eat cabbage cream eggs anymore. Loved them as a kid. Cannot eat them now. Too sweet.
They are very sweet. I mean, I'll tolerate them if there's nothing else.
No, I'd skip. I would honestly skip now. And I've got a fairly sweet tooth, but I would skip them now. Not a fan at all.
No,
give me the Cadbury's mini eggs.
Oh, my daughter loves those. Packet. My daughter loves those. Yeah, no, I like the Reese's, the peanut butter eggs. They're nice, and the caramel eggs as well. They're my favourites.
You have definite favourites.
Oh yeah,
apparently.
But his big favourite are the cheap ones after the actually gone.
The big eggs at a cheap price.
Yeah, I think this year it's been. I mean, it started last year, but this year, I mean, all the Easter candy is now. I think it's 25% more expensive than last year. I mean, it's like ridiculous. It's like, nope. I mean, usually you maybe have one or two as a guilty pleasure during the season, and then you wait for the sale afterwards, and then you start throwing yourself into the pool. But now I'm not buying anything unless it's on 50% off.
Yeah, all our sweet stuff seemed to have gone up a couple of years ago when we got the sugar tax, didn't it?
Yeah.
All the nice stuff, cans of Coke got smaller or more expensive, and all the chocolate's a bit more expensive now. But then you start talking about it too much and it just makes you sound really old, doesn't it? Like when a Mars bar was 10p. That sort of thing.
I think that shrinkflation gets a bad rap. I think it's a good thing. It's like the prices of gas going up. I don't care because I fill for a tenner anyway, so it can be what it is. I'm not spending anymore. And that's the same with shrinkflation. I mean, the bags can be smaller, and but I only buy one anyway, so it's good for my waistline. So, but whoever's in charge, thank you.
No, some of us have a figure to maintain there. I need the bigger bags.
Yeah, it's not a problem generally, but the only thing that bothers me is like the tub of butter you have for. Yes, I knew I was going to get a laugh at that. But I mean, but before when the cartons were a bit bigger, they lasted more or less roughly 2 weeks, a little bit over 2 weeks. Now they shrunk it down, so now it's a little less than 2 weeks. So now when I do weekly shopping, they don't last as long. So then you have a lot of periods when you have 2 tubs instead in the fridge and that sort of thing. And that's really annoying. And that's one of those things that's such a luxury problem to have. Oh no, I have to buy 2 tubs of butter.
Yeah, and like our neighbor, they have chickens, and of course, every time the kids went over there, they're unloading a lot of eggs on them, and they come home with eggs, and we're like, we're gonna put all these eggs. But now we send the kids over to the neighbors a couple times a day. So bring eggs.
You're starting selling them on Etsy.
Yeah.
I say, given how much expensive they are in America, it's almost worth buying them and sort of exporting them to America.
What eggs?
Does anyone have a sailboat?
Yeah,
we can do a
it's
run. Yeah.
I think it's about $10 for a dozen.
Oh wow!
Because they've had big issues with bird flu.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah.
So they've lost lots of chickens and therefore lots of eggs. Never mind the potential mess that their economy might be in, but let's stay away from politics, shall we?
Yes. Should we talk about making?
Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah.
No,
Well, I didn't know this podcast was about making.
Sometimes.
I thought we
try.
could double back to the theme of smuggling now. I got so many ideas for how to smuggle things, and I mean eggs. Being arrested for that, I can live with that. I don't think you get into the scarier prisons doing that, or maybe not. I don't know. All right, making. So, anyone made anything this week?
Andy, you done any making? Last time I saw you make something. Was it Maker Central last May?
No, I made a book a couple of weeks ago. Did a bookbinding course. So I did a book. I'm trying to see if I've got it still handy. I don't know where I've put it.
Yeah, is it a blank book, or did
I kind of make on a daily basis because I'm doing freelance contracting for a company now that is. We generate solutions for normally industrial clients, and then we manufacture them, mostly through additive processes like 3D printing, but also things like lasers and CAD, or CAD-CAM. So yeah, I basically play with 3D printers most days now.
Very fashionable.
Yeah.
That sounds really nice and really cool when you say it like that, at least.
So, anything you can tell us about recently?
Mostly I can't tell you about the jobs we got.
I thought there's going to be
one. There's a kind of I'm signing under NDAs and things.
Okay.
But we solve problems for people. So
it sounds like you're an assassin.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the other side of the work.
Yeah,
that's the not making. That's for the after show, isn't it?
No good at carrying the bodies away afterwards, there, because of your bad back.
Well, if you use enough acid, you don't need to carry it.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That's all Breaking Bad.
And if you use particularly strong acid, you don't need much of it. No, I mean we can be found on LinkedIn, so this sort of stuff. So, for example, one of the a couple of things that we've dealt with sort of recently are quite popular with some of our clients. A lot of warehouses, distribution centres use cameras to monitor kind of boxes going past, and scanning barcodes. And they do it much faster than a human could do it with a hand scanner, or just a human could even read kind of big text on it. So we've developed a shroud that goes around the kind of one of the more common camera systems that reduces the glare from the lights that are built into the camera. So operators don't get kind of this glaring light from above it, kind of sort of glaring at them, but also improves the efficiency at which they read the barcodes. So one of our clients last year saved something like £100,000.
Wow!
By spending a few thousand with us to get shrouds only in some of their centres. If they've got multiple centres, they could have had more shrouds from us cover those centres. They'd have saved even more money because they're not having to scan things twice. So that's kind of one example. The other kind of sort of common sort of thing is things that are made by other companies that then commercial users use. Conveyor belts, keyboards. They don't always have spare parts for them. Yeah. Right. Oh, this is a thing that no longer is made, or no, we just don't supply spare parts. That's a kind of common refrain we hear, kind of our clients sort of saying that the supplier of a machinery is perhaps thing. So we will produce a spare part to do the job. Example of that, conveyor systems. We do quite a lot of stuff with different types of conveyor systems. So there's one type of conveyor system. Instead of a belt, it uses rollers. So you may have kind of 20 pairs of rollers across the width of a belt, and then just however long the belt is. So hundreds and hundreds of these rollers, and they're normally in pairs. This particular one that we were working on, and they're able to turn, so you can actually direct boxes, cartons, one way or another. So when you see kind of distribution centers and you see boxes kind of going off in different directions, that kind of system. Now, surrounding those sort of wheels, obviously you've got a metal structure, as you're likely to have, but then there tends to be like some sort of plastic surround that stops things falling down between the wheels. Occasionally they break off. If somebody's put a box down there still with plastic strapping on or metal strapping on, which generally they're not supposed to, that'll rip these kind of bits of plastic out of the way. And of course, once you've got a gap, things get caught in it, and then the whole system breaks down and you've got problems. So we've developed a replacement clip that will just pop into place. So the conveyor system can be just stopped for a few seconds, pop things into place, carries on. So things like that.
Do you use just standard 3D printers that everybody else would use? Your standard Bamboo Lab, or do you have a specialist ones?
We do use fairly standard printers, fairly easily available, just because they're cheap enough to develop a large number fairly easily. What we don't tend to do is use basic filaments. We tend to use what we call engineering grade filaments. Okay. So we don't buy our filament off Amazon for 10 quid a roll. We're buying direct from manufacturers, and we're not just using sort of standard PLA type stuff. We're using kind of much tougher, better physical engineering properties. And sometimes it's very exotic stuff. Things with carbon fiber in and the like. Which are tricky to print. So it's mostly what we would call engineering grade PLAs. But comparing them to the hobbyist PLA that you would buy from Amazon is not really. They're not even in the same ballpark, really. They may have the same base constituent, but the variation due to the way they're treated, the other compounds that are added to it, just make it from something like, oh, that's pretty, but it's not very strong, to, oh wow, there's no way I can break this.
Yeah, cool.
So and obviously the biggest, what we mostly sell are solutions. So it's not so much the fact that we can make the physical thing for the solution. We actually kind of sort of develop solutions for people. So they'll come to us with a problem and go, sometimes they'll come to us and go, look, we've designed this thing. Can you make more of them for us? Sometimes they'll be, we've made this thing. Can you tweak it a bit and make it better and then make it for us? Sometimes it's a case of, can you just, here's the broken thing. Please design something and make something that will fix it. Or this needs to be attached to that. Or we need to have guards around this particularly sensitive bit of equipment. So we'll kind of design those. And when I say we've got chief designer does most of the work. I do the dog's body work of kind of getting them printed, getting them packed, getting them posted.
It actually sounds really rewarding, that sort of work, Andy.
It is. It's great. I mean, most people who've ever listened to me talk, I used to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And
physics,
teaching,
wasn't it?
Yeah, teaching is generally a fairly stressful job. Generally, most people don't realise how the long hours that teachers work, and the stresses associated with teaching.
It's not easy hours. If you look at just the hours.
Oh,
in the
it's only 9 till 3. Yeah.
I mean, it's not just that doesn't count as an hour. That's like at least 2 hours every hour or something like that.
My teaching timetable actually in front of students was something that I'd only be working like 20 hours a week. But the actual amount of work that I did before I finished was something closer to 50.
Yeah.
On average. Some weeks it was 70. Yeah, occasionally, yes, in the summer when some of the classes had left and left school and the like, then it might drop down to 35, 40. But on average, my average kind of working week was 50 hours. Which I know there are people who do more.
I could never do that. I don't have the attention span. The mother of my oldest daughter friend, she was really happy because I took the kids for a couple of hours, and she said, I have 20 English papers to grade. And I that sounds like a bloody nightmare. And she's like, yeah, it is. I mean, two of them might know how to write, and maybe one of them also have an imagination to actually construct a great story. The 18 rest of them, I still have to read all of it and do a proper job and
provide feedback and write it down.
And she said 20 to 30 minutes per paper, depending on how long they're written, to do a decent job, and time that by 30. And and you can't really make an evening out of it with a bottle of wine, because I mean, then the last 10 would either get the short end of the stick, or maybe they are the lucky ones.
A really long stick.
I've got teaching friends that do that.
I used to. Well, there's been times when there's kind of coursework, non-examined content or non-examined assessment. So you'd have like A-level physics, or even GCSE physics. You'd have people producing kind of 20, 30 pages of coursework, which has to be marked and graded against criteria. More than once, I'd kind of go. When we were living in Plymouth, used to go and stay with my wife's aunt for a weekend, and I'd literally crack up at 4:00 on the Friday, and she would provide food, and I'd basically mark until kind of like 5:00 on the Sunday. Continuous work, just stopping for food and sleep. But I'd be going to bed like 2:00 in the morning, getting up at 7, and just carrying on. And it's just, and then not always finishing during that time. It's just that I would take that block to try and mark. A good piece of A-level physics coursework might take an hour and a half to mark. Generally, you don't have huge numbers in those classes. I may only have kind of 30, 40 kids doing that. If you've got sort of GCSE, which is age 16, if you're doing coursework with them, could have 90 to mark, and they could take kind of half an hour each. So and that would need to be done in like 2 weeks, while still teaching the rest of the time. So I don't miss that, and that's the beauty of this job I've got now. The people I work for are great. They're friends. That's how I kind of got into it. I can be really flexible with time. So I'm taking the day off on Thursday and going up to London for the day, catch up with my eldest. So I can be really flexible with time. It's low stress. I can. Sometimes I work 8 hours flat out. Don't even stop for lunch, and it's just like but it's still easier than when I was teaching. At least I can stop and have a coffee whenever I want, or a cup of tea whenever I want. So it's just it's not arduous in any way. Sometimes oh no, one of the machines has gone down. We've got problems and we've got a massive order in, and we need to sort that out. And but that's kind of emergency rather than stress. It's very different from.
And it's very often very well defined, like what you need to do in what order. So it's kind of laid out by itself.
Yeah, generally, yes. I mean, sometimes machines go and you go, what on earth has happened there? But I mean, an order comes in, we take the file, we print the file, we just got to make sure there's enough filament of the right color to go. And the most arduous thing is things like, right, if we print 5 of these per printer, we can have them finished and get them on by 9:00 in the morning. They'll be finished by 4:30. That gives us time to change them over, and then we can put 7 on, which will finish at 6:00 in the morning, so that we've got the printers running continuously. And you're just like, I've got to get it finished so it's 5:00, so we don't run too late into the evening. But and you're trying to sort of juggle the maths of, right, if we print 6, might finish just about 6:00. but we need to get them out in the next 3 days. So you're constantly balancing that, and but these ones need processing, and these ones don't. These ones need assembly. These ones need other materials added. Yeah, so that's kind of a balancing act, but it's not stressful. Like, oh, Johnny was swearing at Freddie in the lesson, and now Deirdre's kind of made some accusations of what Johnny was up to with Freddie, and and then there are parents on the line and head teacher going, "What's this about Johnny and Freddie?" and all that sort of stuff. There's nothing like that. So
and the 3D printer doesn't leave like a small remark on the way out of the door who leaves you hanging the next couple of days. Should I have called someone? Is this a cry for help? Or yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Sometimes the noises some of the machines make, sometimes it's like, oh no, what's happened? And then you kind of panic. Oh no, that's fine. No, that's fine.
They're probably easier to fix, or you can throw them out.
Yes, yeah.
We're talking about kids now, right?
Yeah. And by fix, I mean...
Yeah, knives and guns, no. You can't
give me generational trauma any day. I mean, trying to figure out programming when something goes wrong, it's like, that's a pain.
Yeah, so I'm making most days from that point of view. Yeah. I think since Make Central, I've not been going less actually. My work has increased. The amount of hours I've done has been increasing. So the amount of time I've been going to kind of a men's shed, which I used to talk about on Maker's Waffle, that's gone down. I've not been doing much at home apart from DIY. Had some issues with damp. I've got a very poorly workshop, even though it's brick built.
Oh dear.
Bit of leaking, lots of condensation, things rusting, things getting mouldy. I've had to throw away a lot of wood.
Dear.
Mildewed, and it's kind of like just rip the whole thing down, but I can't because it's a big pile of brick. So trying to get to the bottom of that. But of course, to get to the bottom of that, I really need to empty it out. But to empty it out, it needs somewhere to go, and there isn't somewhere for it to go. So
buy a big tent.
How nice wouldn't it have been if there were like an event just right around the corner where you could just make something of those materials and just hand them away to get rid of them somehow.
Wow, what a segue.
Yeah.
That's a first.
That's a fantastic segue, that is, Howard. That's fantastic. You've been taking podcast lessons.
Yeah. I mean, if you do something long enough, sometimes you find a grain of salt in the middle of the gravel. Yeah.
I feel like we need to book up our ideas now, KJ.
Yeah, well, you do, Glenn, because I did listen to last week's episode, and you got to make something.
Oh,
you can make something.
Go on.
Right. Okay. So this is why I'm on tonight, really, folks, as to talk about Maker Central, but more importantly, something that is kind of a Maker Swap at Maker Central. Now, this is inspired by the Maker Swap that's been happening for several years now at Maker Camp in the Catskills in the US. So if you're on Instagram and following the American makers, there's three big events nowadays in the American maker calendar. There's kind of open source, which has only gone 1 year now. There's Workbench Con, which was a couple of weeks ago. And there's the Catskill Maker Camp, which is up in East Durham in New York State, not far from where Jimmy DiResta lives. Jimmy's actively involved in it in terms of kind of helping create, but I think he's not kind of actively involved in like being in charge. He was part of the inspiration with Austin from Blackthorn Resort, which is where they host it. Now, I think it was the second year of Maker Camp where Keith from the Working Hands podcast, I think, was the starter of a Maker Swap. The idea being that people could turn up with something they'd made and then swap it with other people. And I thought that actually something like that might be quite a nice idea. Now, it's obviously not the first sort of Maker Swap sort of thing that's happened. Fools with Tools, Treasure Trade has been happening for a long time. That's kind of on a bit of a hiatus at the moment. Whether it'll happen again at Christmas, not sure. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, the Fools with Tools Treasure Trade was very much a personalised one. There was a great team in the background. People like Ellen, Crash with Ellen, Jamie Reeder from Custom Cave, Duncan Band from Little Hobby Shop, Neil from NMB Woodworks, and they kind of put together a kind of a very good system by which people could go, I want to do it, and I want to do it with maybe just people in the UK or people with Europe or elsewhere in the world, and you would get given a name, and you would kind of have to kind of stalk them, find out about them. If you're not already following them, don't follow them, but try and find a way to kind of find information from their socials. Yeah, it's very creepy, really.
It is actually, yeah.
But great fun. And then you'd have some time, and you'd make something, and then you'd send it to them by a deadline, and you try and personalize it. So you kind of, one of the things I used to do, I did several times, was make kind of books or notebooks for people, and find things they were interested in or people they were inspired by, whether it's musicians or comedians or quotes, and stick quotes in the notebooks. So it'd be a notebook they could write in.
Oh, cool.
But it would have quotes in it as well, but ones that mean something to them, and I'd put their name on the front and things like that, just to make it kind of very personalized. Some people didn't do so much the personalization, and it obviously depended who you got and what you were making. So I Make a Central year before last, I made a sword for Simon Harman from Zelda. I made the Master Sword, and so that wasn't personalized in terms of it didn't have his name on it, but it was personalized in terms of I knew that would be something he would really, really like. So it was that kind of personalization instead. Now that's great, but that stalking and trying to think about, well, what would they like and what would be great to make, that does get quite involved. So the idea with Make a Swap at Maker Central this year will be much, much simpler. Basically, take something you've made, take something you're pleased to have made and you put a little bit of effort into, but not, we're not talking like, make an 8-foot long river table with £500 worth of resin in it on a nice £500 spalted elm top with hand carved legs, each leg made from a different exotic wood. We're not talking kind of that level of commitment, but it takes me along. Details of exactly how this thing will work haven't yet really finalised, but probably what it'll involve is like a raffle book, and each sort of thing that's been made will get given a number, and then the numbers of the other half, the sort of the matching number, will get put into a hat, and that'll get pulled out at some point. And you'll put out a number, and as long as the number isn't your thing, if it is, you put the number back in, put out another one. You take home the number on the other thing. Cool. And it's not personalised, so you might get something that you kind of go, I've never had that, but I've now got something that this person has made and has put some care into. And for me, that's quite a cool thing. And I've got a bunch of stuff, slightly off camera, that different makers have made for me. And it's just nice to have those sort of things around. It's quite a meaningful thing.
It'd be really cool if everybody could make a galleon just to guarantee the fact KJ has to fly back with a galleon back to Sweden.
I mean, Glenn, you're my go-to there. If there's anything I can't get through TSA or fit in my bag, I'll just give it to you for safekeeping.
And then you have to take it through next time you go over.
I'll post it through in kit form.
That's the problem, though, because people tend to stay at a hotel close by, because that's one of the big hassles when you go to the carnival or something as a kid and you win one of those giant teddy bears. that's fun for 2 seconds until you realize I have to carry this for the rest of the day.
Yeah, so and I think that's an important point. Yeah, I mean, you take something like Paul Brooks. Yeah, he's got this thing for making giant battle axes and giant swords, and
That
the
look
people
really
who've
good.
won those in the raffle. I mean, they're fantastic. I mean, he does put some real good effort into them, but not practical for people that are potentially flying. So I don't really want to sort of set rules, more sort of guidance on things. So things like, it doesn't have to be personalized. It doesn't have to have Maker Central on it. Yeah, you could have your logo on it if it's something that would be relevant, but that's not necessary either. Something that is going to be travelable. Yeah, people have got to get it home.
Yeah.
And they might be on the train.
My life-sized weekend at Bernie's is out then. All right.
Yeah, so the 3-meter totem pole. Yeah, skip that one as well. It's got to be something you've got to get to Maker Central, and it's something that somebody else has got to take away too. I think things like, if a blacksmith makes a blacksmith knife, nice something to make, it may be a case of, somebody that's going on a plane and is only doing hand luggage may have to go, I'm going to have to find a way of getting it home. It might be that they give it to somebody else who's then going to post it. They may post it themselves. They may kind of do a swap with someone. I really don't mind if that sort of thing happens, as long as the people swapping it are all agreeable. The idea, so you've got something that you've made, that you've kind of put some thoughts and time into, and that's a key thing. So I know from having chatted to people who've been to Maker Camp in the States that occasionally a few people entered the Maker Swap and they didn't really put any effort in. And the way I kind of think about it is that they didn't really show respect for the process. So they've made something very minimal, low effort, and they're kind of hoping that they might swap it for something that's really fantastic. Yeah, an example might be somebody who's kind of, they've taken 15 minutes to turn a slimline pen out of a very simple single piece of wood on a lathe. Yeah, obviously there's a little bit of skill required there, but a slimline pen, that's probably the simplest of the pens that you can make. You can make a slimline pen I did it in less than 30 minutes as a beginner. It was one of the first things I ever turned. So it's not a huge skill level. It's not kind of something, it's something that's, I don't want to say cheap, but it's low effort. And they're kind of maybe hoping to swap it for, a Tony Rouleau block flame, which has taken him dozens of hours, and he sells for many hundreds of pounds. And it's a very beautiful piece of making. That's not showing respect to the process. Now, there's no way to actually sort of say, you have to spend at least 3 hours and 55 minutes making this thing, and it has to weigh at least 150 grams, and it has to be no bigger than 30 centimeters by 20 centimeters by 10 centimeters. We can't define things like that. I think it's sort of where people kind of look into themselves and going, okay, I'm going to take some time and effort to make something, or I've got a bunch of things I've already made, and actually that's a nice thing, and I took some time and effort to make that, but actually I've got 3 of those pots and I'd like to give that to someone. That's okay. It doesn't have to be something that's made now. Yeah, so Glenn, you were saying, the last one, you thought, I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to make something personal. But
here we go.
It might be something you've written. There you go. It might be, yeah. I'm not going to, for those who, obviously it's not a video podcast, it doesn't get released as a video podcast, so we're not going to say what Glenn just showed, but that would be a nice swap for something.
Yeah,
it'd be a really nice swap for somebody if you wanted to swap that. I mean, whether they could get it through, TSA. I mean, they could. It looks a little bit dodgy, but but we want to say what it is. Just because it looks a bit sexual. So it's about sort of thinking, right? What do I make? What do I enjoy making? What might I like to swap with somebody to give to somebody else as an example of something that I've made that I've taken a little bit of time to make. Not looking for hundreds of hours. But yeah, if you're literally just throwing something together in 5 minutes, you're taking a block of wood, doing a quick turn of something on a lathe, adding a little bit of finish, and then saying, okay, well, yeah, only took me 10 minutes. And of course, trying to find the time is tricky because, what a really skilled wood turner might turn in 10 minutes might take me 3 hours. So it's kind of about having just a bit of respect to the process.
Yeah. I mean, a good amount of effort for your level of skill.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that skill level is an important thing. I mean, I said about the slimline pen. I mean, I know because I did it. It was the second thing I'd ever turned. It took me less than 30 minutes to do a slimline pen. So yeah, would that be a great example? Well, maybe if the wood was made from something that had been segmented, or had a particular, maybe it was some bog oak. Yeah, it's kind of 5,000 years old. There's a bit of a story behind it. Yeah. That then takes it up to a different level, I think. Yeah, it's showing a bit more respect for the process. And if it's then put into a nice little case, the problem with an event, with an idea like this, is that with Maker Central, not Maker Central, with the Fools to a Treasure Trade, we basically sort of said, look, you've got to think about things like it's being posted. So it needs to be something that can easily be posted. You have to think about its value, because if you put too high a value and you're sending it to somebody in a different country and you've put it on the custom, oh yeah, this thing I've made, it's 300 euros. And then it goes into a country that goes, oh, 300 euros. Oh, well, okay, well, there'll be 20% tax on that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, somebody who's receiving this gift is having to spend out 60 euros plus administration fee to receive a gift. And that's a real story. That did happen. Maybe not those figures, but that did happen. So trying to define kind of, what one should make, how big it should be, how heavy it should be, is impossible. But I think it's about kind of saying, look, this is about sharing something you've taken some effort to make, that you're proud to have made, and you are prepared to swap with somebody else who's going to take that and see that as an example of your work. Now, it doesn't mean it has to be perfect, doesn't mean it has to be big, doesn't mean it has to be something that's world class. We don't want something that's really expensive. I mean, don't get me wrong, if Tony Rulo decides he's coming over to make a Central and he decides to enter and there's a block plane and I happen to win it, that would be purely accidental. I'm going to say, look, Tony, that was very kind of you to put that in, and here's a few Welsh cakes in exchange.
It's open for everyone. Is that what? Do you need to pre-register?
Absolutely no. At the moment, I don't think we need to pre-register. What I'm probably going to do is put together a little video, which I'm going to give to a few friends to maybe share around on Instagram, because I'm not going to be back on Instagram or any of the socials until another month, I think, just over a month, when kind of Easter comes to an end. That's if I decide that actually I quite like being off the socials. I'm certainly getting more stuff done, and I'm reading more books.
I mean, the question is how social you can be without social media.
That's the tricky bit. That is the tricky bit. But so as far as I can see, no one's going to have to re-register. I'm not planning on that. What I do need to work out, and I'll probably be asking a few sort of people their thoughts on this, is exactly where and exactly when this gets arranged. I'm probably going to try and have a chat with one of the organisers from Maker Central and see if perhaps there is a space that we can use on maybe the Saturday. Now, there is the biggest difficulty is, if somebody's only going for one day of the weekend, that does make it extremely difficult for them to potentially take part. And so it might be a case I may have to sort of say, look, it's going to take place on the Saturday, and it's going to take place Saturday afternoon. And so by kind of between say 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, you need to bring your thing to wherever a particular space, and at 3:30, after everything's had a number put on it, there'll be a draw. So you need to make sure you're there at 3:30 to take that. It might be that it ends up being done in the Hilton Bar.
I think that would be a fun way to do it, to be fair.
Which, yes,
Yeah.
that is something that has passed my mind. Because, yeah, why not? Let's take over the Hilton Bar or take it. Again, slightly tricky if somebody is potentially just turning up for the day. And he's literally going to go home at 5 o'clock because they've brought their kids along and they've just literally turned up for the day. So their kids can see, Ruth from Kids Invent Stuff, and they can go and see Jimmy DiResta, Colin Furze, and then they're kind of popping home. I think certainly as this is the first time of doing this, might just have to say, sorry, that's a bit of tough luck. Because what is not going to happen is I am not going to post anything. So if somebody puts in something and it doesn't get claimed, or it gets to a number and the person isn't there to actually collect it because they've gone home, then they lose that. And how we'll deal with that, I don't know. But I'm not posting it. That's for sure.
I mean, that's the easiest part, having that included as a part of the rules. I mean, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's, if there is some people who are, too bad, I'm only going on the Sunday, and as long as there's one other person who also, then they can do a personal little maker swap.
There is that. I mean, there is that. That could be
as long as you have more than one person,
yeah.
You can do a swap.
Oh, exactly. If only two people take part, and I know there's at least 3 people who've said they're definitely going to take part. So as long as there's 2 people taking part, there can be a swap. Yeah. If there's more than that, that's great. Yeah. That's it. It will always work out. As long as we don't end up with the last person pulling something out pulls out their own thing. But there's a probability of that happening.
Who can always know that? Who can count that?
We can always rig it a little bit. Or, not that anything would get rigged. Yeah, definitely if Tony's coming, that wouldn't happen at all. Purely coincidental that he got a few Welsh cakes in exchange for a block plane.
Because no one needs a matching set of anything.
So yeah, I mean, I'm certainly open for people to reach out to me, or if necessary via other people. If it's kind of on Instagram and I'm not back there yet, there's plenty of people who can contact me. You've got my WhatsApp. You 3 guys could. If somebody reaches out to you and says, "Oh yeah, I want to buy," you can contact me through WhatsApp. Because I'm not treating that as a social, even though it does tend to be a little bit of a social media.
I was going to say, I think it's a little bit more than social media, isn't it?
It's a communication. For me, it's a communication thing. We use it for work. I use it for other kind of important things. Immediate family. I wouldn't want to lose out.
It's like social media, but nice.
Yeah,
because you get the social part.
No algorithm.
Yet.
Oh well, yeah. At the moment, no algorithm, and I get to see the things I want, and I can archive and block people much easily if I don't. So if people have got great ideas, then or suggestions for kind of how it might work, then happy to hear them. It's going to happen.
I love the fact that you're setting this up and just letting everybody else taking any questions for you on your behalf.
Well, you can ask them a lot. I'm an ideas man.
He's experienced.
It's part of the ADHD. It's suck it and see to a certain extent. Yeah. I know that 3 people have said definitely they're going to do it. So there's definitely going to be some sort of swap happen. Exactly when and how? Yeah, we can work that out. We've still got just under 2 months. Week shy of 2 months. So
I'll definitely be making a lot of things between now and then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and this is the thing, because you're not making it for someone specific.
Yeah.
You're just making it because you're going to give to someone. Yeah. So, if you turn, let's say you have another go at turning a nice thin vase like you did on your video this last week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you go, I've gone down to 2mm, not gone down as thin as I did on my last one, but actually it's looking good. And I'm a bit concerned that it might crack if I take it any further. I'm actually now going to finish that off. I'm going to give it a bit of a sand, give it a bit of a finish, and hey presto, I've made a pen pot for someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's taken me an hour and a half. Yeah, I'm pleased with it. Yeah. On the grand scale, maybe of kind of wood turning achievements compared to what the blind wood turners produced, you go, well, in comparison, I'm not there yet being the important word, but actually this is something I'm pleased with, and I'd be happy for somebody to have it on their desk with some pens in, as a kind of memento of Maker Central in 2025.
And of course, if anybody turns anything as well, it's not just the turning time, it's the twice as long as it takes you to clean up afterwards, isn't it? Time included in that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you clean up.
I mean, not all turners do.
Yeah, the guy I took a turning, did a day's wood turning lessons quite a while back, and I don't think he ever cleaned up.
God.
The wood shavings were up to the bed of his lathe.
Yeah,
they really were.
I couldn't live like that.
No, I couldn't. It was not enjoyable.
No. You just keep turning until the lathe is gone, and then you buy a new lathe and a new workshop.
I don't know. I don't know what he was. Yeah, he's done professional stuff. I mean, just to kind of put it in perspective, he would turn the bases for the FA Cup.
Wow.
As in the trophy for the Football Association Cup, because they were made by a local silversmith. So he was turning the bases for those. Crikey. That was kind of one of the commercial jobs that he did. So yeah, he did a lot of wood turning. So I presumably just every now and again, just get in there with a shovel, empty it into a bag next to a magnet to catch any chisels that he dropped or chuck jaws or the like.
It must be that. I mean, if you drop something in a pile like that, it's gone. You can't.
He did several times. He was just like, "Oh no, never mind. I'll get that again," and just pull out another one.
Yeah, for the price of a decent wood turning chisel, though, you can't afford to lose many, can you?
No, but I mean, he had, I think, 6 lathes in his workshop.
Wow!
And it was about the size of a standard single garage in the UK.
Oh gosh!
Oh yeah.
Wow. And a bandsaw and the sharpening system, although the sharpening system was on his bandsaw. It was interesting. Yeah, very interesting. But no, I mean it's about showing respect to the process, I think, is the kind of the way I've phrased it, in the kind of the Maker Central meetup group that we talked about it in a while back. If you're doing something with resin, it takes 30 hours to set, but it's only taking you 2 minutes to pour. Is that 30 hours or is that 2 minutes? Does it matter if what you've produced is something that looks good and looks like you've put a little bit of effort and thought and care into?
What about if you have an accident while you're making something? I've spent 3 or 4 hours in A&E, and does that count as effort or?
Definitely. Depends whether you get blood on it or not. Only if you get blood on it.
Yeah.
If you don't get blood on it, no.
Everything should require blood, sweat, and tears, shouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Blood sacrifices are fine. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. But only if it's your own blood.
Yeah.
Not really acceptable to use other people's blood.
Not without their consent.
Yes.
Yes, but don't go too artsy on the project on the blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, bringing 3 sets of jars in a nice oak. Something. No.
Or I've still got the mountain bike I bought in 1992. It was Kona Syndicone, and 1991 or 90. A long time ago.
I left school in 1991.
I didn't. I'm not saying whether I was still in school or not, but it had a blood splatter effect on it, which I always thought was quite fun for a mountain bike. So yeah, that blood splatter effect on the outside of something with somebody's blood. I don't think that's. I'll leave that there. I'll let you think about that for yourself.